Hello everyone, and welcome back to the 3T Path channel. Welcome back to our Uddhava-gita course. Now we're coming to the end of this fascinating chapter on the mystic powers of yoga, the siddhis. And we've seen lots of amazing powers described. Krishna's going one by one saying how the yogi who had this absolute super power of meditation could achieve. And now we're going to start with two fascinating ones. So let's get started here. We're on the 11th canto, 15th chapter, verse 24. Now, of course, if you want to watch all the previous classes, make sure you become a member of this channel. That's all you have to do. And the description is here, and the explanation is here in the description of the video. And then you can watch the entire course. We already have so many classes in this course. And you can go to Uddhava-gita.com to see the whole course nicely organized there as well. So here we go, verse 24. Now this is a yogic power that actually is mentioned in Bhagavad-gita. The yogi who has achieved the mystic perfection called swachanda mrityu blocks the anus with the heel of the foot and then lifts the soul from the heart to the chest, to the neck, and finally to the head, situated within the Brahmarandra. The yogi then gives up his material body and guides the spirit soul to the selected destination. So this is a very interesting one. And so the yogi would do then, he would be able to, it's suicide. It's a kind of a yogic conscious, not in depression, suicide. So it's just like, I'm just gonna leave this body now. Thank you very much. This body's been great, but now I'm off. And they would be able to just leave, and they would leave through the sahasrarachakra, through the Brahmarandra. They would leave through the top of the head, like literally they just leave, and then go anywhere they wanted. And Krishna speaks even of being liberated. They could achieve liberation that way. They would go. Krishna says, though, in Bhagavad-gita that you'd have to do it the right time of the year. You'd have to be during the day, not at night. So there were some like technical complications involved. But anyway, but here he's saying he could just go to selected destinations. So you could go somewhere else, maybe like, I want to just take birth now in siddhaloka, or in tapaloka, these very high, wonderful planets in this universe. I want to, hang out with Lord Brahma in Brahmaloka, and stay there for a while, for a few trillion years or a few billion years at least, I want to hang out there. And he'd be able to leave like that. So there's amazing images. There's a beautiful art that was made, many, many decades ago, showing this yogi leaving through the top. Very nice. You can look that up as well. Okay, so you can do that. That's a power that's mentioned in other places as well. It's kind of like, suicide sounds bad, but, because usually suicide is like a depressing, horrible, sad thing. But this is like, I'm just leaving the body, kind of thing. Purport. The mystic opulence of swachandu mrityu, or dying at will, was wonderfully exhibited by Bhishma Deva at the end of the battle of Kurukshetra. So what they're referring to here is that Bhishma Deva, grandfather Bhishma Deva, he had this special, he was given this gift, he received this blessing. So he received this dying at will blessing. So he would only die when he wanted to. No matter what happened to his body, he would stay alive until he wanted to die. So, the battle of Kurukshetra is going on, and it's like a horrific battle, right? Everybody but the Pandavas live, and Bhishma Deva is still there. So just a horrific battle. And Bhishma Deva was the commander of the Kurukshetra army. So he was number one target for all the people on the Pandava side. So by the end of the battle, he is completely covered in arrows. He's been shot with arrows just hundreds of times. He has hundreds of arrows penetrating his body and arms and legs, his neck, just like arrows everywhere. They just went right through, like stuck in him. But he couldn't die because he had this special power. So he was in pain. He could, I'm sure it wasn't at all pleasant, but he would not die until he wanted to. So at the end of the battle, he's covered in arrows. And there's this famous scene in the Mahabharata where he lies down. It's called the bed of arrows because he's got so many arrows going through him that when he lies down, his body isn't touching the ground. Just the arrows are touching the ground. So he's lying down his body in this bed of arrows. And it's actually a huge section of the Mahabharata because, of course the Pandavas did love him, even though he was fighting for the wrong side. He was fighting on the side of Duryodhana for complicated reasons. He was kind of fighting for the institution instead of fighting for the right cause, which were the Pandavas. He wasn't fighting for Dharma, he was kind of just fighting for whoever's in charge, I'm supporting anyway. But he loved the Pandavas and the Pandavas loved him. And he was very wise. He was also a great, very wise person, great devotee of Krishna. So as he's lying there dying, a huge part of the Mahabharata is him teaching the Pandavas. He's this fight, and Krishna's there, and the Pandavas are there, and there's this famous scene where he's lying there, all stuck. He can't move. He's immobile. It's just all these arrows are and he asks Arjuna for some water. So Arjuna has this special technique where he could shoot an arrow into the ground just in such a way that a little spring of water would jump up. So because Arjuna had all these special mystic arrow powers as well. So he does that, and he gets a little bit of water. So he speaks for months because he was waiting for the right time to leave his body because of this thing of the sun going north. You have to wait for the right time. The sun had to be moving north, or is it south? I don't remember. It had to be just the right moment to leave your body. With this technique, you don't want to leave at the wrong time, or else you just, it doesn't work. It backfires. So he knew about the tricks and he was waiting for the right moment. It was just the wrong time of the year to leave the body. So he had to wait a few months because it has to be when the sun is moving toward, I think it's moving towards the north, I'm pretty sure. So it's when the sun is moving towards the north and not the south. So maybe the sun was still moving to the south. So you have to wait for that to finish the solstice and then start moving, and then he could go. So it's months. And he's sitting there, and he's just teaching. He's teaching them about Dharma, and they ask questions, and Krishna. So it's a very interesting, very famous example of this power. So he's there, and then when the time comes, okay, guys, I'm going to go now. And then he's got Krishna there. It's perfect. And that's why a yogi would want this power, because you could okay, everything is done. Can you imagine? It's actually a wonderful ability. It's actually a beautiful gift to have. It's because the problem with death is that it's very inconvenient. It comes at the worst time when you're not ready and everything's you're about, it's this horrible timing. So with this, at least everything's okay, is everything organized, everything good? It's did I switch the gas off? Everything is organized. You had time to okay, I did my will, I did this, I spoke, I said sorry, I forgave that one. Okay, everything's ready. Okay, now, and then you can fix your mind nicely on Krishna. And of course, he had actually Krishna right in front of him because he's an eternal associate of Krishna. So he had it easy. So Krishna was actually right there with him. So that's really nice to be able to die, actually in front of Krishna is perfection, right? So everything was just perfect, and he's there, he did everything, and then he goes. So beautiful, beautiful example. According to Srila Sridhar Swami, the term Brahma as used in this verse is an example of upa-lakshana, or the use of a general term to indicate various concepts. Brahma here indicates the particular destination selected by the yogi, namely the spiritual sky, the impersonal Brahma Jyoti, or any other destination that has attracted the yogi's mind. So that was the ideas of the yogi. Just basically go anywhere, or even, just get liberated if you wanted to. Or in the case of Bhishma Deva, just, go back to Krishna. Go back to Krishna's abode. Okay, now this next one is a real doozy as well. Verse 25. The yogi who desires to enjoy in the pleasure gardens of the demigods should meditate on the purified mode of goodness, which is situated within me, and then the heavenly women generated from the mode of goodness will approach him in airplanes. So this is a real doozy, right? So this is, the devas, the gods, they have their pleasure gardens. This is something that's often mentioned in the scriptures, in the Puranas. They have it good. The demigods have it good. It's when you have lots of good pious credit, good karma, tons of good karma, you get to take birth with the demigods and just have a wonderful time, and the food's great, and everybody can just have sex freely. There isn't like this thing, you get married, you have to stay married till you die, because you live for hundreds of millions of years. So it's just like, it's kind of like free, it's whatever. Everybody's just always young and beautiful, and there's no bodily odor, they say, specifically mention that. So everything's very nice. You don't get pregnant by mistake. There's no diseases, there's no STDs, there's no problems. So everybody's just like, they're just all like, and it's all about enjoyment. That's what the heavenly planets are for. The Swargaloka is all about just having fun. So they have wonderful music and wonderful food, and they have all these different powers they're born with. And of course, they have these gardens of pleasure, they're mentioned. So these gardens, you just have, it's beautiful, beautiful place where they go to have sex, basically, and eat and enjoy themselves, have a nice conversation too, I'm sure. But basically, that's the idea. And here the yogi, after all this time here on earth, he's working on all these powers of meditation, and then he decides, what? I just want to have some fun. So then this is how you do it. He would meditate on this is really interesting. He would meditate on sattva, on Krishna within sattva. And then these women are generated from sattva. Very interesting that, even though it's all about sex and pleasure, enjoyment, but it's a very pure form of matter. It's an elevated, pure, more rarer. It's not like the grosser stuff we have here on planet Earth. It's like the pure form. It's more sattvic. There's more lightness to it, more beauty and lightness to it. It's not like the heavy stuff of rajas and tamas we have here. So it's a purified aspect of material nature. And so these women, they would come, I guess if you were, into men, I guess men would come, because they'd had men. So they would come, of course, there's always these flower airplanes, as you know. And there's always talk of airplanes in the text, right? So they would appear. Here it just says they would appear. It doesn't say exactly an airplane, but you have these, Vimana actually does say. So the Vimana, this word Vimana pops up all over the place, which means like a special kind of spaceship airplane. So they would come in this Vimana. Imagine, literally like a spaceship would come down with like amazing women and take you away. So or amazing men if you're into it. So, there you go. That's, good reason to do yoga, right? No, it's not. That's not what you do with yoga. But I think it's just hilarious. So that's one of and it's always mentioned, by the way. This is not something that weirdly comes up here. This is a common yogic power mentioned many times in different places. So there you go. Okay, verse 26. There's no purport to that one. The previous spiritual masters didn't even want to comment on that. It's like, no, we're not even going to talk about that one. Verse 26. A yogi who has faith in me, absorbing his mind in me, and knowing that my purpose is always fulfilled, will always achieve his purpose by the very means he has determined to follow. So this is a really interesting one, right? This is the power to do what you've determined should be done. It's very interesting. This is actually a yogic power you can develop. Because in yoga, we develop this strong mind. So we develop clarity of mind, we can see what's going on, we can see the path, we can understand things, we're more in contact with reality. We know what's going on, we know who we are, we know what nature is. And we determine where we want to go, and we can take that path and stick to it. We have tapas. Yogis have increasing tapas. So tapas is this ability, it's the fire, it's the determination, the energy, the grit. I translate tapas as grit in my yoga sutras. It's this power to stick to it. You can do what has to be done. You don't get distracted, you don't get, oh, this is easier and that's too hard, and oh, I don't know, maybe I'll do something else. No, it's just like, you know what you want and you have the power to do it. So this is something you actually will develop as you progress in these practices of yoga, the 3T path. You have this ability to stick to things. This is like, look at this Uddhava-gita course. We're already in class. What is it? 90 something, and it's going to go up to like 200. I'm going to stick to it. I know I'm going to do it. I'm just, unless Krishna kills me or something stops, but I'm going to stick with it. I'm going to stick with it. I'm going to be doing it unless Krishna stops me. Because that's what I do. I've already done one in Portuguese. It was 280 classes. It took me 7 years to do the course, to record the course. I was just doing it. It's the way my channel is here. I've started 10 years ago in May. It's going to be 10 years. And I record a video every week, at least one. More than, now I have multiple channels and I do multiple videos every week. But, so it's this determination to stick to it and just keep doing it. And I'm just gonna, it doesn't matter if oh, I'm getting 1 million followers, I'm not, I'm feeling good, I'm not feeling good, oh, I'm inspired, oh no, you know what, no, it doesn't matter, I'm just gonna do it, and just, So this power you will definitely get with yoga. You need it, or else you wouldn't be able to practice yoga. Proud to do your meditation every day, your japa every day, to stick to your life changes. Because most of us all started eating meat and drinking alcohol and doing drugs and doing so this whole change we're doing, towards a more sattvic lifestyle. This requires a lot of grit, I see so many people. Just yesterday I met another person oh yeah, I was vegetarian for so many years. And then one day we just went to the supermarket and bought sausages and meat. It's a yogi doesn't do this. Okay, this is it. I don't eat meat anymore. Boom, and I'm not going to eat meat anymore. It's not a question. It's just, this is it. Because I have this ability to fulfill my purpose, I'm not going to give up. Oh yeah, what is it? No, it's this strength to stick to it. I haven't had any alcohol since the night. Okay, boom, that's it. I'm oh yeah, sometimes. No, it isn't oh yeah, maybe a little bit. Oh, you know what? No, it's just you stick with it. I've been doing japa 16 rounds every day since, I think, 96. Every day. Imagine, I have children being born, people getting sick, like this. Massive workloads come, do this and emergencies. Everybody's got, it's been since 1996. So 30 years, the emergencies come up, you get sick, and children were born, children get sick, children go to the hospital, you go to, it's and you stick with it. And you travel, and it's this and all that, and it's Christmas, and it's New Year's, and it's birthdays. And you stick with it. So this is a great power, which you will develop as well. So, but this, so this is, what Krishna's talking about, this absorbing his mind in me and knowing that my purpose is always fulfilled, will always achieve his purpose by the very means he has determined to follow. Okay, purport. In this verse, the word yadha, whenever, indicates that by the mystic power called yata sankalpa samsiddhi, one will achieve one's objective even if one pursues it at an inauspicious time. Lord Krishna is called Satya Sankalpa, or he whose desire, intention, purpose, or resolve always comes to pass. As you know, Sankalpa is what you determine will happen. So Satya Sankalpa, always Sankalpa. Satya is always. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who is a spiritual master in our tradition from the early last century, mentions that one should determine to revive one's lost relationship with the Supreme Lord Krishna through the infallible means of devotional service, which can be executed at any time or in any place. Of course, so of all the things you're going to determine to do, of course, the priority is to love Krishna, to develop your bhakti. That's the main sankalpa you're going to be working on, of course, which, and you're just going to stick with it no matter what. There are many books giving proper guidance for achieving Lord Krishna, and the following are mentioned: Srila Goswami's Sankalpa Kalpavriksha, Srila Krishnadas Kaviraja's Sri Govinda Lilamrita, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti's Sri Krishna Bhavanamrita, and Sankalpa Kaldadruma, and Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's Sri Gauranga Smarana Mangala. In the modern age, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada has given us over 60 large volumes of transcendental literature which can fix us firmly on the path back home, back to Godhead. Or sankalpa, or determination, should be practical and not useless. We should resolve to make a permanent solution to the problems of life by going back home, back to Godhead. So, of course, all these books mentioned here, I wouldn't specifically recommend them so much unless you really, really want to be like a super academic studying the Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition. But, these days we have also so many courses and videos, and so that's what I recommend, is that you follow. And of course, you mentioned the books of Prabhupada. We're reading the Bhagavatam here, which is so important, Srimad Bhagavatam. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff for you to absorb. In my book, The 3T Path, at the end of the book, I talk about the need to study every day, and then there's a long list of books I recommend, pretty much with all of Prabhupada's books included. And that will keep you busy for a number of years. And then you should probably read them again, which is good. The Vedas, they talk about 3 times. So 3 times you go over, 3 times it's amazing how much more you pick up. The Bhagavad-gita you can just read nonstop. I knew a great devotee who basically he would just go through the whole entire library of books published by Prabhupada, come to the end and start again. And he just doesn't know how many times he's done that. He just keeps looping. And every time you just get more and more out of it. So there's so much to do there. And of course, there's so many wonderful academic works. That's what I've been into for the past years now. It's wonderful stuff. There's because devotees now, lots of devotees have become important academics, and they write wonderful books and wonderful papers, and then you study other wonderful academics just talking about devotion and bhakti and yoga, and there's so much. So there's a whole lifetime of study for you, and it's wonderful for your determination and intelligence. Okay, verse 27. A person who perfectly meditates on me acquires my nature of being the supreme ruler and controller. His order, like mine, can never be frustrated by any means. So this is the power of command. The Jedi thing, open the door. So it's that kind of thing. It's just that power of command. Again, the yogi actually doesn't want to command anyone. As you can see more in the stories, yogis usually are like, just leave me alone. I'm just meditating here on Krishna. I'm so happy. I don't want to tell you, I don't want to control people. Actually, controlling people is one of the worst things you can possibly do, because it's such a huge mess. But anyway, so this commanding power, the power to command people if you need it. So that would be one ability. Purport. By the command of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the entire creation is moving, as stated in Bhagavad-gita 9:10. Mayadhyakshena prakriti suyate sahasraracharam hetunanena konteya jagat viparivartate. This material world is working under my direction, O son of Kunti, and it is producing all moving and unmoving beings. By its rule, this manifestation is created and annihilated again and again. Similarly, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given his command that people all over the world should take to Krishna consciousness. The sincere devotees of the Lord should go all over the world repeating the Lord's command. In this way, they can share his mystic opulences of giving orders that cannot be counteracted. So yeah, that's a good trick. Just tell people to worship Krishna, to love Krishna, because Krishna has told people to do that anyway. So now you just, then it's going to happen at some point. Even if the person doesn't get it right away, in some future lifetime, they will become devotees of Krishna. So you can follow with that command. Verse 28. A yogi who has purified his existence by devotion to me, and who thus expertly knows the process of meditation, obtains knowledge of past, present, and future. He can therefore see the birth and death of himself and others. Purport. After having explained the 8 primary and 10 secondary mystic perfections of yoga, the Lord now explains the 5 inferior potencies. So remember, there was 8 super mega powers, and then there were 10 secondary powers, which was still really amazing. We finished those, and then there were another 5 he just threw at the end without saying, but they're tertiary powers or so. So these are inferior potencies, they're called here. And so the first inferior one was this power of seeing time, to be able to see past, present, and future. So with this power, you can see where the person's coming from and where they're going, where you're coming from and where you're going. So this is a very neat power indeed. And so this would come just by devotion to me, Krishna says, without getting too much detail. Okay, so we're going to stop here. I'm going to leave you hanging for the last 4 powers mentioned here, and then we're going to be finishing the chapter and moving on to the next. So one more chapter on mystic powers to start at least, and then we'll go on to another topic. So I hope you understand everything, and if you have any questions, just leave your questions below, because I love hearing from you, and have the rest of your day with lots of peace and lots of love.